Hi, I'm Sifu Grant from Darsana Martial Arts.
I'm Nicole.
And today we're going to show you exercise and a skill called coiling. This is part of what we call our skill of bridging. And bridging just means that when there's a gap between you, you connect to the other person, usually limb to limb. So if Nicole has her triangle guard out, I might connect like this, and this is a bridge. The skill of bridging is manipulating your position and the other person's position in order to gain an advantage, deflect an attack, etc. So coiling is using a circular motion to change the position that the other person's arm is in, or just to change your position in relation to their arm. It can be done in either direction with either arm, and it can also be done as a two-person exercise where two people are circling and coiling, and this is just a nice neutral way to get started on a duel or whatever. Start trying to attack, blocks, joint locks, etc. So first, let's take a look just at the concept of inner and outer circle. So Nicole is going to face the camera and just get into a nice horse stance, and she's going to show you just the basic movement of outer circle. So it comes up center line, rolls out, circles down, and this is a large movement, and this is the exercise. And one application of this outer circling exercise is coiling. So if I just come over here as she continues the exercise, if I were to just make contact with her here, just doing the exercise is going to move my arm around in different positions. And any one of the positions along the circular arc that her movement causes my arm to take could be a variety of different applications. She could be blocking a strike. She could be getting in position to do a throw or a joint lock. She could simply be moving me off to the side so that she can move in a different direction, sort of just deflecting my energy off this way. Notice how she uses her whole body. Her torso is turning. Her hips and knees are working. Her whole body, the power for this is coming up from the ground through her legs, goes up through the central axis of her torso, and that's what's driving the movement of her arm. So this also helps her to learn how to develop power. If I push here and she uses her whole body, that's going to move me off with very little effort and resistance in the muscles of her arm. It's going to allow her to maintain a relaxed state. If she stopped using her body and her legs, stopped the turning of her arm, and just tried to use her arm to push me, yeah, it's not happening, right? But the moment that she relaxes, sinks through her feet, and uses the ground, it immediately connects the movement of her arm through her feet to the ground. All right, now go ahead and just reverse directions and do the inner circle. So the inner circle is the same basic concept, just going in the other direction. Notice how her shoulder and elbow stay down, rotating here as her hand comes up, drawing in towards her center. Just for a moment, stop turning your body, just square to the camera. Notice how as her arm comes around, just finish the circle without the turning of your body. Her elbow is coming to center. Her hand is coming to center, the center of her chest. She's not actually crossing over to the other side of her body. It might look like that because of the turn. But the truth is, she still has the structure of her arm lined up to her hip and then to the ground. So if something was straight ahead of her like this, she can root to the ground, drive through her elbow, and drive me back. She could also root to the ground through her elbow and drive me that way. Okay? Using her root, her waist, and the alignment of her body, even while she's going through the circular motion. Go ahead and continue. So this is the inner circle. Again, relaxed, using her legs and her torso, her hips, her waist to create the circle, and the arms are just the final expression in their movement of the energy created by her body. So again, anytime, anywhere she contacts me here, you can see a variety of different angles it creates. It could be a deflection, either high, low, or mid deflection, meaning, keep going, meaning that if I throw the punch, that could be blocking the punch here. If I threw it a little bit lower, she could be blocking the punch here. She could also be wrapping me in a joint lock. And she didn't change what she was doing. I just positioned myself so that that would be what the coiling motion did. So this is the physical exercise. Let's take a look at the partner exercise of coiling. So won't you stand right there? So usually when we practice together, if we're going to duel, we'll oftentimes start out like this, where our wrists are crossed, we're in a triangle guard, and we'll go from here. But sometimes we'll start a little bit more open and we'll do coiling arms. And when we do that, one person is going to be on the inside with their right arm, while the other person's on the outside with their left. And then we're going to be vice versa on the other side. So I'm on the outside on this side and she's on the inside. So it's neutral, rather than me being both on the outside, her both on the inside, or the other way around. So this way, there's no advantage just because of the position. It's not lopsided at all. And so we'll just begin to coil. So we're both doing an inside coil. Inside coil, generally speaking, is a more common movement. But notice how we move around each other. Okay. We can reverse directions and go outward. And the goal here is to stick to each other, follow each other, maintain our alignment, our own center, and use our sensitivity to feel the direction of the other person's force, or use this to flow into another movement. For instance, I could come back behind here and start doing a manipulation on the arm to affect her balance. We can go one in, one out, and I can transfer here, head and arm, and start working other manipulations here. So that leads to some ideas about the applications of coiling. For instance, if she's just holding an arm straight out like this, I could do an inward coil just as a way to block her to the outside, so then I could come in with a strike. I could coil in a little deeper, moving into something like a hammer lock here, and I can either put more pressure on the lock or use this to affect a takedown. I could circle very high, let your arm out of there, you can coil your arm out, come up around just to get into a different position for a different type of attack. So there's a variety of things that you can do just coiling around. I can coil as a way of passing her arm this way and transfer to her head, and now coil the other way, outside. So an inside coil to an outside coil to capture her head, and just go ahead and follow along and come around. And now I have a guillotine type hold. Actually, it's a little bit worse because this one's about to turn into a neck crank. It's kind of ugly. Okay, so that's some of the idea of how coiling can work. Now, most of the time, coiling is something that follows an initial deflection. So if she were to throw a punch and I was just to deflect it this way, then I could maybe coil in, but that depends on her energy. If she punched and her punch snapped back very quickly, then I might not end up actually coiling around the arm at all, but just a small coiled movement, a circular movement that kept this covered and then came in for an attack. Or if she's coming in with a number 2, might then catch this one, and then I can go in for a different kind of manipulation. So coiling is not always done in this sort of a big circle. It's just a spiral. And a spiral can be super tight or it can be very large. So that's all coiling. We can coil the head. So instead of coming at the arm, she's sort of more charging in like this for a tackle type movement. I can catch the head, coil and lead her energy around into something like this. We already saw coiling the head in the other direction. I can also coil from a cross position, where maybe I end up here, and I coil around this way, move in for a takedown, something like that. So it's a very versatile method, and you can also coil and then pass off to the other hand. So I can coil this way, pass it off to the other hand as I come in for head and arm manipulation. I can coil this way, pass it off to the other arm, and move into a lock, maybe some kind of a knee strike, moving down into a takedown. So it can also be a partial coil, where you're not coiling much. You're just coiling to change position. For instance, if we're dueling and she's on line to attack and hit me here, I can just do a small outer coiling motion and change that so that I'm on line to attack. I could coil using the elbow and have this sort of a coiling motion as she comes in if she's too strong and I can't move her out, or it's just not the right energy to use at that moment she's coming in. I can coil around with the elbow here and then slide in for a strike, continue around and come in to some more manipulations and grappling. I could change that direction, roll the arm out and get on top. So all of that is coiling. Coiling can also be used as a way of escaping manipulations. Let's say she's doing sort of a hammer lock or shoulder crank here. I can actually coil following the circle of her motion. Let me see, let's move a little bit more that way. A little bit more that way, and I think we can see you good. So here she's cranking my wrist this way, cranking my elbow around this way. So if I don't do anything about this, slow motion, it's going to do this. It's going to rip at my shoulder, which hurts, and I'm going to probably end up going down with it in order to escape that pain. And she achieved the goal of her manipulation. If she wants to cause damage with it, she can do a smaller, tighter movement, and that's probably going to tear my rotator cuff and cause no small amount of discomfort. So while she does that, I'm going to follow the circle with an inside coil, and my fingers are going to thread through the empty space underneath her arm. Go ahead. All right, let's do it a little bit more this way so they can see it this way. Here she goes. I've got to follow it by not only making my arm go in a circle, but actually, let go for a second, but actually turning, spiraling around the central axis of my limb. So go ahead. I sink and go with it and coil under and end up with something like this, some kind of wrapping motion that could be just a manipulation for her balance, coming in for a strike, continuing into a takedown. Just depends on what happens with the energy after that. So one more time. She's got me. This is about to be bad news. She does it. I follow it, coil with it, come up under, lifting her energy up, maybe taking it down this way, something like that. So the cool thing about coiling is it's a motion and a skill that allows you to blend with a lot of different types of energies, because spirals move in all three dimensions at once. Depending on which way they circle, they're moving through the Y and Z axis, or the Z and X axis. It's a little bit of geometry, but basically they're moving through either the up and down and forward and back plane, or the side to side and forward and back plane with the circular aspect. And then as they spiral along, whichever direction they're moving, they're either moving along whatever the third dimension is, either up and down or horizontally. So in other words, spirals have the potential to move in any direction at any time and to change direction without having to stop and then start again in a completely different direction, sort of like a roller coaster. So whenever someone's trying to do is they get their hands on you and they're grabbing you and they're trying to manipulate you, as long as you stay centered, she can, as I'm trying to do this sort of a shoulder crank on her here, if she sinks, relaxes, coils, and extends, then she sends that energy back to me. Now maybe she doesn't send it straight back to my center, maybe she sends it wrapping around me. And that starts to take my balance off. So it's a wide variety. So all you really need to do in the beginning, to develop this, is to practice the exercises that Nicole was showing earlier, and just get a friend and start coiling around their arms. Go with small movements, just the one arm. Make them bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you're also learning to coil and get all the way around and all the way up and using your coiling to get into the other person's space. Or using coiling to get away and start working some more small joint manipulations. So, like I said, very versatile. Can, if you really explore it, cover just about everything you need in grappling and clinching, joint locks, throws, to be fluid and to be able to instantaneously change directions and change techniques. So that's coiling. Thanks. Good job. We'll see you guys next time.